Chasing Ghosts on Scooters in Bars, the podcast that blends the modern scooter lifestyle with a twist of the paranormal over a cool cocktail. My name is Mark Elgin. I am an avid scooter rider and have a persistent and nagging interest in ghosts and the paranormal. Though I'm no expert or professional, and I certainly respect those that are. So welcome to the second episode of Chasing Ghosts on Scooters in Bars.
Man, it's good to be back.
As a recap, we're a group of modern Vespa or similar riders doing a 4-day jaunt in Northern California, visiting dive bars, classic pubs, and anywhere there's paranormal activity in a tavern. Mark's with me, my co-writer and friend from next door that crossed the Great Divide, and welcome him as well. Hey, Mark.
Hey, good to be back.
I hope you were kind as you rated and reviewed our first podcast. We are still learning and want to continue to improve with better quality and interesting hauntings, but it's a process, and we do appreciate your patience.
And we're taking the feedback from the people and trying to improve.
Both of them. So we're currently late in the day on the first day of the ride, headed from our Iowa Hill confab onto Forest Hill Road to Everybody's Inn, to the Mountain High Tavern, to the Railhead in Colfax, and then off to Grass Valley and the haunted Holbrook Hotel.
The Holbrook.
That sounds about right, but I may have confused a stop or two, and I think we can fix it and catch up throughout the podcast.
Right.
But before we get completely caught up, Mark, I think it's important to add a mild disclaimer.
What's that?
Well, it's something that says we're not at fault if you do this. About the potential that our listeners could think we are pro drinking and riding, which we are not endorsing at all.
No, that wouldn't even be safe.
No, we keep our drinks to less than 1 per hour until we land for the evening. And then, of course,
woohoo!
All bets are off. No, one more thing. If you work in or own a haunted bar or hotel or restaurant or just have a great ghost story, go to chasingghosts.net and submit it. Or you can just email me at markh with a K at chasingghosts.net or record it and attach. Either way, we'll get your great story on our podcast.
And we'd love to hear from people.
Yeah, and here's what's really fun. If your story is in the Washington State area where we can scooter right to your place, we'll come to you, Vespas and all.
And I'll tell you what, that's something you don't want to miss if you have that opportunity.
I think it's been referred to as a shit show.
I have heard that before.
So anyway, one great stop was Everybody's Inn that we mentioned on Forest Hill Road, where the owner and her dogs were holding court in tending bar.
An absolute memorable stop.
Well, you being such a dog lover and all.
Well, yeah.
Cynthia is the owner, and she says the bar used to be in their house or in her grandmother's house next door until she demanded that the bar be moved out of the living room and into a separate building next door.
Yeah, it sounded like she'd had enough of the indoor bar living.
They didn't think it was going to take off like it did, and I'm surprised it did. Purported to be a way station for something like the Pony Express or similar, it has decades of history and a plaque with the story and death by hanging of Old Four Fingers, ruthless outlaw that held up the Forest Hill stage one too many times.
Yes, that's true. But Cynthia has set us straight.
She has. She said it's all hogwash, and including any ghosts in her bar, but we're not so sure, as she had a paranormal research group actually spend the night in the bar and give her some feedback that might have given her the chills.
Well, what did she have to say about that anyway?
Well, let's listen now, Mark.
Okay.
So you believe in all these ghosts and all this crap? Because I've got better stories than that one.
I'm sure you do, but what we're really interested in is all the Josephs you've met. And
that
and we're
kissing and telling.
We're with Cynthia from the Everybody's Inn in what town?
Forest Hill,
California,
yeah.
On our PubScoot 16, and she's poured us some delicious cold beer. And we're with our.
Does anybody need any more?
No. And she's going to tell us a couple stories about this bar. And she says she's heard it's haunted. It's been investigated, but you're going to fill us in on a little bit of that. So let's hear that story.
Okay. The only story in their investigation that I gave any validity to was they said that there was a nice gentleman by the name of Joseph that was concerned about me, that I would be okay, and his name was Joseph. And I didn't give it much credibility until after a couple of days, and then realized the pictures above where they said he was standing were given to me by my uncle, Joseph.
Who?
Owned a bar.
Like you do.
Yes.
Which is really cool.
It is cool.
So he's kind of overseeing this.
Yeah, maybe coincidence, but
He's the patron saint of
this bar.
everybody.
Yeah. And yet I have customers that have said they've seen people in here. And what's strange about that, they all see the same, they don't even know each other. And they go, "Who's the man in your kitchen?" And I go, "There's nobody in my kitchen." And they go, "Well, there's somebody with an apron on in your kitchen." And they see a man with like a butcher's long apron, or what, the old-fashioned bartenders that wore the really long apron. And they see this man in the bar. I've never seen him. I've never felt his presence. But I have had customers say
That were sensitive.
that he's standing at the end of the bar there, or he's standing in the doorway there.
That is
And
really...
they've never met each other and described the
So
same
more
person.
than one person said that.
And they
didn't it?
describe the same person.
So this,
I'm getting the chills.
how does this? What is this area? It seems really rural, but I think we'll be right back. Okay, here we go.
Hi, Blue.
We're back with Cynthia. She had to serve some customers and answer the phone. Probably took a to-go order.
Right.
How's the food?
Food's good here.
Yeah. So you said you had other fun stories.
Well,
You mean the crazy one down there?
censorship.
No, you can say anything. This is just for me to listen to late at night.
Yeah, right. Like I said, I've been single 35 years. I'm pushing 40. No, just that, that, so that I believe that because this spot is so old, this used to be like a way station. The coaches used to come up through the back here, and the original place, which I don't know what it was called then, was back there, back where my horses are right now. So anything could have happened here,
Yeah.
Like Old Joe's grave is next door because he was killed, and he was a horse. Did you read that?
I read the
That's a
plaque.
lie.
That's a lie. Okay. The
Old-
4 fingers.
That's a lie. Look at it carefully. You'll see all the misspellings.
I
Right.
say there's a terrible bit of grammar.
Yes, and if you put it all together, it says false, and also says on April 1st,
Oh.
which is.
Well, I saw redirected April 24th, which is my birthday.
But old Joe is a horse,
Okay.
and nobody could ever catch the stagecoach to rob it, getting the gold down the hill, because he was the fastest horse, and nobody could stop him. So the robbers got up on the hill and chased him and got in front and killed the horse so they could get the money.
And they did?
Yes.
Wow. So that happened right here on
Yeah,
the property?
No, next door. So there's just a lot of history from then. And the original bar was in the house that I live in. And then the boys went to war. And then when they came back, Mama said, "No more living room bartending," And they built this room right here, just this.
So there we have Cindy from the Everybody's
Excuse
Inn.
me?
Cynthia.
Bitch. Dumbass.
Well, that's my fault. Cynthia Ann.
Cynthia Lee.
That's what I meant.
Don't let it happen.
Cynthia Lee.
Okay. Thank
No,
you.
that's how he.
Cynthia seemed to really have herself a haunted place that she didn't believe was, even though she turned around and said it was.
Right. It was a little oxymoronic, but I liked it.
I like the fact that we turned her around. So we left the Everybody's Inn, and our next stop was the Mountain Club Bar. Just a few miles down the road for a quick stop. We were getting thirsty again.
It was dry and hot.
Cynthia told us her daughter worked in a local event venue next door, which was also haunted, and I visited with my brother, but absolutely nothing happened except the introduction we made to her daughter.
Well, they were getting ready for a wedding that night.
They were. From there, it was off to the Railhead Saloon in Colfax.
Great little town.
And this is one of the many corrections from the last podcast I'd like to say, is that we thought we had gone from Iowa Hills straight to Colfax, but we had a little gap in our memory. Maybe it was a time slip.
Alas, we were a little off.
The bartender was a stunner named Linda that had her own paranormal radio show there in Colfax, and we had a really fun conversation with her.
That was kind of a surprise. I didn't know anybody else did this.
Yeah, apparently it's bigger than you think
It's
it is,
catching
Mark.
on.
Yes. I think we brought up Linda in our last podcast because we just can't forget about her.
Was it the blonde hair or the blue eyes?
Yeah, it was a little of everything. And that's the kind of impression she made, though I'm quite sure that she didn't even notice us, a bunch of old dudes on Vespa scooters parked in front of her place.
Well, and the fact that we were married.
Yeah, I think that's it. Or the older we get, the less noticeable we seem to become.
That is how it works, isn't it?
Okay, so we met Linda. We liked Linda, but that was all that happened with Linda. And from there, from the railhead, we were just 22 miles away from Grass Valley and the Holbrook Hotel, where my brother and I would be staying in room 3, the haunted room.
And you guys were very excited about that. You particularly, more so than Bobby. But.
I was super excited, slightly nervous, but the Holbrook has been the site of many paranormal investigations, including the Dead Files, Ghost Adventures, and Ghost Hunters, amongst others, local people doing it. And over the years, the hotel has hosted many famous guests that included Ulysses S. Grant, Grover Cleveland, Benjamin Harrison, James Garfield, and prize-fighters gentleman Jim Corbett and Bob Fitzsimmons. What do you think of that?
That's quite a laundry list of names that are quite famous.
Mark Twain also stayed there, and you stayed in the room, did you not?
Lonnie and I stayed in the Mark Twain room, yeah, and it was absolutely lovely.
Well, it was a huge room, and you had a balcony, and we took some photos out there.
A view of the street fair going on and the strange people below us.
It was
a great atmosphere.
We had a blast in that town. In fact, we could have ended it right there, and we got. Rumor also has it that the infamous highwayman Black Bart also was a guest at the hotel. You're a history teacher, are you not?
I've read a few books. Yeah.
Tell us about Black Bart, can you?
Oh, too scary.
Okay, you didn't read that book.
No, not yet. It's on my list.
We did have an evening of revelry on the street fair down there, and enjoyed a dinner at the Owl.
Great food.
It was great, and also known to be haunted by a gambler who was shot there for cheating. His name was Charlie.
But we did not know that at the time, correct?
We didn't. I found that out as I did the research for this podcast.
Yeah. We didn't bring our equipment in.
Did not.
We weren't ready. We were thinking food.
Where was my grip?
So, soak up the suds was the theme that night.
From there, we went back to the Holbrook Hotel and went into the Golden Gate Saloon. Here's what's cool about this. Old, great haunted hotel with the oldest continuously operating saloon west of the Mississippi.
That's impressive in its own right there.
Well, as legend has it, not even the Prohibition could keep the good times and spirits from flowing in the bar.
Well, it is Grass Valley.
Well, it's a long way from everything right there in Gold Rush country. As we sat there late at night and our night coming to a dimming end, we were enthralled by a woman named Amelia, who was at the bar with her ex-husband. But alas.
Well, the odd thing, too, is it was like they were getting along.
Well, they were getting back together. I think she was a little upset with another ex-husband and got back with the father of her child.
At least for the night. They had the same room.
Anyway, she didn't have a lot of time to spend with a bunch of old fat guys on Vespa scooters. Well, except you. You're not fat. Can't say I blame her. So while we're chatting with Amelia, something crazy happened in our room. Room number 3, the haunted room. Mark, can you maybe fill us in?
Well, I'd like to go back, if I may, just a little bit when you damn near shat yourself when we first got there. And you were so excited. You got your little meter reader out and your ghost measurements, and you were all giddy. Everybody else ready to go to the bar, but you had to spend a few more minutes in your room testing the measurements. You remember that? I was
peaking. It was absolutely out of control. The electromagnetic frequency meter was just cooking.
Yeah.
It was alive, and
you pulled me in to witness it. I did see the meter going berserk.
Yeah, and it was an uncomfortable feeling. And you said, "Oops, I have to go down to the bar and have a drink," and you ran out of that room.
Yeah, well, I was thirsty.
You were thirsty, and it was frightening. So I ran right behind you.
But, and again, as a skeptic, I wasn't completely sold, but early the next morning, I saw your room had been visited.
Well, it was while I believe we were in the Golden Gate that a couple of people from our party went to my room, took my key, or my brother's key, turned all the pictures upside down, moved all kinds of curtains around, because when we got there, the room was a mess.
Well, I can't speak to any of that. I'm not privy to any of that, but I do know that it was different from the night before.
Yeah, it was different. And so I don't think anything paranormal happened there. However, when I got back from the bar, I did a EVP session and did get one very frightening comment. So I'm going to play that now. It's so clear, it makes me suspicious, but here it is. Well, that was disappointing, Mark. Apparently, I deleted the EVP with the word pussy on it in my room. And I think it was because I was a little terrified my wife would hear the whole recording.
Well, that could be, but it's very disappointing we didn't get to hear that. Nothing funnier than hearing somebody call you a pussy. Yeah, it was just like that.
It was. So anyway, we all spent the night. We talked about my room being a mess. And we got up in the morning. We did a really nice photo shoot on your deck, the Mark Twain room.
The Lizard and I offered up our room for a wonderful overview of the town.
We were looking.
Nice shot.
We did. We looked down the road. It was a beautiful sunny morning. We all felt reasonably good.
All things considered, yeah.
We then made our way down the stairs through the hotel, checked out, turned in those metal keys.
That's right, the old standard issues.
Mine was still in the door of my room. I have a photo of it. I took it in the morning.
Another telling photo.
So we did another photo shoot in the parking lot of the Holbrook on our way, or we were going to be headed to Nevada City. It wasn't a very far drive.
No, but it took about 30 minutes to get our things packed up and one last photo shot in the parking lot.
Nevada City, when we got there, was super picturesque. I mean, it was beautiful. And it was a town built on a slope. I guess it was known for pot growing also.
I would imagine it seemed to be pretty common theme throughout, but I thought it looked like a movie studio.
It did. It had that
a cool little look.
Yeah. If you go to our website, you'll see some shots. And it was home of the National Hotel. That's the same hotel that's in a town called Jackson, not too far away, that we're going to be too late in the next night.
But you know what? I think we came across the bar before we made it to the hotel, did we not?
We did. But to get back to the National, they did ghost hunting at that, the ghost hunters that sort of thing. And the woman that we spoke to behind the cage was on one of those episodes, though she didn't spend much time with me.
She didn't seem very interested in our production.
But you're right. Drinks at, what was it?
The Mine Shaft.
The Mine Shaft. And I believe that was the bar in town that opens at about 6 a.m.
Yeah, lucky for us.
It was a bartender named Michelle, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. And she was very, very nice and made us all a bunch of screwdrivers to get our day going. Very
healthy screwdrivers. She was a professional bartender.
She was, and had some history in the Washington State area, if I remember correctly. From there, we went to the Pines Cafe, which just had a terrific breakfast, and it was really hip.
And didn't you purchase something on the side?
I did. I bought a bottle of habanero hot sauce that they served with breakfast. I asked if they sold it, and of course they brought out a beautiful bottle, and I bought it, and everybody shared in the tab, so it saved me a lot of money.
That's right.
I used it for weeks until I ran out of it up here, and I think I can buy it online.
Oh, it's certainly worth it. That was delicious.
So from Nevada City, if you remember, we drove around and kind of got lost and ended up back in Grass Valley, but then found our way back out again and headed up to North San Juan. This town was also known for pot growing.
Once again.
There was some other exciting fringe activity going on as well. The bar, the Brass Rail, touts a hanging in one of the corners. And I didn't know if you knew this, but the place was for sale.
Yeah, it looked like it hadn't been upkept for quite some time. But.
Though the bartender there, I'm not sure, I think he was a handyman, bartender, janitor.
And
He
I
did
think a
just
logger
handle.
that was on lunch break was
He
behind
was.
our working.
Nice guy, and he pulled out a map and really showed us where the mines were and how the valley worked, and
Gave us a nice history of the joint.
I got a beautiful shot of my scooter against a brick building next door that I'll also post up on the site.
It was a great show. You disappeared for a few minutes. We were a little worried about you. With
Well,
the crowd across the street that was gathering.
There was one. From there, we took a very lonely road into the hills going toward Allegheny.
Whoa, Nelly.
Yes, we had to drive. Well, we went up. I guess there was only one way in and one way out, but we drove up the hill, and we had to drive through people's like driveways and a neighborhood.
Well, it was the first time on any scooter trip I've been a little bit leery of where we're going if we'd make it back out, because that was not just other neighborhood. It was only a one road, one lane.
Yes, and we were a little bit suspect.
Yeah.
And we smiled.
And
so
we were on scooters.
And we were. I think that's what saved our lives. This was a place called Casey's Place.
Man, what a stop.
We spent a little time out on the deck, also inside. I pulled my camera out, and they said, please put your camera away.
Right.
I did get a shot of the outside, and it was cool. But
It's a great bar. Rustic look,
do you think
kind of a dive. The outside was rusty looking.
And built over a mine. In fact, he said
Right.
the mines went down over 2 miles underneath the bar.
And there again, the guy had a great history of the bar and the surrounding area and what was going on in the industry.
In fact, we talked about that place for quite a while with the classic characters that we met inside. I believe the Big Lebowski was hanging around the couch over there. Once again, no photos.
Something was over there.
Yes. It was warm. If you remember, the day was starting to grow on us. It was warming up.
Well, in fact, the lizard appeared without a shirt.
He did out on the deck.
Along with Greg, and all of a sudden, Greg's without a shirt.
Right. We met another guy out there that I think took his shirt off in a nice way. So as we left Allegheny and headed down the hill, we hit some hot tar on the roads. Do you remember that?
Huh. Like it was yesterday. A little skippy.
Keith was leading in the Grand Dink, and he didn't seem to have a problem at all. He was just powering down that mountain, twisty turns, leaning into it. So, of course,
Not a care in the world. He was just going.
Yeah, and we're following, and I hit one of those black stripes where they were patching the road.
Tar patch, yeah.
And I slid all the way near the ditch. Thankfully, the right direction and not toward the hill, and slowed way down, got to the bottom and said, oh my God, did that happen to anybody else?
And it happened to a few of us. Yeah, it was a little sketchy.
Bob said he almost laid his down.
Yeah, it was a little uncomfortable at times.
Alas, we made it all safely, and we were back. From there, we ended up at a place called Burgie Dave's at the Mayo.
At the Mayo.
We are not sure what that means, but BD, or Burgie Dave, had some really great food, a very friendly bartender. He was a huge, happy black dude in the middle of Northern California.
He owned the place.
He did.
He had a gregarious personality.
And he had mermaids painted throughout
Everywhere.
the bar.
And it was bizarre. Well, his daughter, right? His daughter.
Daughter or wife, I think.
His daughter liked the mermaids, painted mermaids, and so he became a mermaid guy.
Yeah, picnic tables outside, kind of a tall block building, really great drinks. If you're in the area wherever Burgie Dave's was, do you remember what town that was in?
Not specifically, but it was a standalone town all by itself. And
I'm going to tell you where it was.
Where was it?
Camptonville.
That's right.
Camptonville,
California.
So from there, I'm told we went to a place called St. Charles Place, but I simply have no memory of that. I just can't place it.
Yeah, and I'm having a hard time recollecting anything either.
So let's just let that one go.
Gone.
And then to Harrington's at the Butte Resort.
Which, again, is unique. Never been something like that before. Just completely different than a normal stop.
It was like going back to 1959 to a camp your parents would take you to with a camp trailer or a Chinook, over the cab.
I think I saw
camper.
Ward and June ducking around the corner
So
at one point.
you go in there and they do pour a stiff drink.
Yep.
Friendly bartenders. Then they have a big trout pond out front where you can fish. There's a little gurgling fountain, and
Right.
we sat along
it's
there
a
and had our
family.
drinks.
Yeah.
Oh, did I mention
What do you have? What do you have?
it's for sale?
That's right. But you know what else is unique about that place? The Butte. It's got a paid phone booth.
Oh, that's right.
And our friend Greg had to make a phone call home with a bloated ear from a bee sting the day before.
Let's talk about the bee sting.
Yeah, it needs to be talked about because that was he became Elephant Man.
I'm not sure.
His ear did.
He got stung by a bee that went inside his helmet.
On the road, yeah.
And he looked like a little bit like, who's that animated character with the funny little ears?
I don't know, but his ear got swolled. It went sideways for 2 days.
And he refuses to carry a cell phone, which is hilarious in itself because he borrows yours or mine or anybody else's.
He uses one.
Right. I
Just not his.
I don't need to carry a cell phone. You have one. So,
Well, you held your ground that day and said
did.
no.
And he
The enabling was going to stop that day. And luckily for him, we had a payphone for him. And
I think we have a picture of him using a payphone. I mean, I can't even imagine there are any of those left.
I don't know when the last time I've seen a payphone.
So Greg got a hold of his wife and had that conversation. Of
And
course,
alas, all was well.
she texts you or me or anybody else to have him call. So why does he need a phone? I guess he doesn't. We do enable
He
it.
proved us wrong.
So after our cool libation at Harrington's, and it was very comforting and enjoyable, we were getting a bit tired and looking forward to our final stop. We didn't think it was going to be far until Keith told us it's about 70 miles away. We were headed to the beautiful home of Dr. Andy and Nancy, who let 7 road-weary Vespa drivers into their cabin, which I think was about a 3,500 square foot beautiful home.
Yeah, it was a home, yeah.
In Lake Serene Lakes. We went up through Truckee, up through Donner Pass, and I guess it's not Squaw Valley, but Sugar Loaf.
Sugar Bowl or something like that.
Sugar Bowl.
Sugar Loaf.
We made
It's
it.
something.
It was getting dark, and we planted ourselves in their beautiful home.
But do you know what the elevation is up there?
I don't.
It's about 6,800 or 7,000 feet.
Is it really that high?
Yeah. And do you know what temperature you find at 7,000 feet about 7, 8 o'clock at night?
It was chilly.
Holy hell. My nipples were piercing through my coat.
Finally, that thing froze in there. It was a beautiful area, but it was unexpected through our 80-degree ride all day long.
Yeah, once the sun
85
dropped,
degrees.
it got cold quick. That last 20 minutes was brutal.
Do you remember Mike, or as you earlier called him,
Ike?
Yeah, because he didn't make the whole trip.
Yeah, this was his rendezvous point, was it not?
It was, and when he left, so he drove his car from San Francisco to Sacramento, left his car in Sacramento, hopped on a scooter that we hauled down from Washington.
Right.
And just thought he would scoot on over and see us.
Am I wrong in kind of seeing something here that we're taking care of everything and he's just kind of hopping around?
Well, I have to say we did use his trailer to haul it down there.
Well, that is true. That's worth something.
So when he left Sacramento, it was over 80 degrees. He was dressed light. He was flying across the roads. He was doing a direct route. When he arrived in Lake Serene, it was 39 degrees.
He was a shivering icebox.
He was blue. It was hilarious. Nancy had put blankets in the dryer and warmed him up when she heard he was driving up.
Well, and it was pitch black. He had no clue where he was going. He was on a scooter. I'm shocked he found us. Yeah. But he was one cold nugget.
He kind of deserved it for being 2 days late. So Nancy wraps him in these warm black blankets and then rubbed him down.
Yeah, he liked that.
And then gave him a stiff drink and a bite to eat.
Yeah. Delicious food.
It was a good start for Ike.
Ike.
And he seemed to make a comeback. In fact, so much that he commandeered Keith's bed.
That's right.
Greg was laying down. He said, "Who's sleeping here?" And Greg goes, "Well, that's Keith's bed, but he's taking a shower." "Not anymore, it isn't." Throws out his stuff, and in he went and sound asleep. Keith wasn't pleased.
No, but you snooze, you lose.
Well, he snuggled right in beside him, and down they went. Actually, I think he found a place out in the garage. But we all had a great sleep, and we had a beautiful dinner, and they just were very, very hospitable.
They took care of us.
So thank you, Andy and Nancy. What a nice stop that was.
Yeah.
You know, as a note, Mark, by now we had been to 18 pubs, bars, or taverns. It's a little behind our typical count, but there was some real distance between a few places.
There was, but great rides up and down the valleys, up in the mountains, and beautiful day, and a lot of variety to our stops. With some ghost haunted places for sale. We had options. We could have bought. And
Well, they were for
will.
sale because they were haunted.
Right.
So day 3, we're going to get up and get out of Serene Lake Serene, wherever we were, and head to Tahoe. And this will be the beginning of our day of closed bars.
Right. Son of a bitch.
It was tough. So we're going to close this particular podcast, Mark, and as we're doing it, we had a surprise visitor. It's the Swollen Ear Boy.
Oh, the brown jacket wearing,
I believe he's the yellow glove wearing,
American flag flying.
old scooter riding.
Who could that be?
It's that guy.
Well, there he is. He is the payphone using Greg Wombold.
Glad to be here, guys. Thank you very much for allowing me in the studio.
We're glad you could make it. Better late than never.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, we were waiting for you a couple hours ago when you were supposed to be here, but you didn't make it. But we're here now.
There was a
and
paranormal issue.
there was.
And believe me, that was a fine pair they were.
So that we're going to end this particular podcast. And,
Hey, Mark.
well, yeah,
What
smart.
do we got to look forward to on episode 3?
Surprisingly, we're going to end up after a great ride on day 3 in a town called Jackson, where we'll go to the
that's
Fargo and the Haunted National Hotel with some great interviews and stories from the workers. So with that, we're going to end this podcast to Chasing Ghosts on Scooters in Bars. And here's a little something from Weeknites, the synth-pop band from Seattle.
Reach out the arms of your own, motion like you reeled me in. It's a tough slide back to the feel of you only for me.
This podcast and all others, including the music by Weeknites, is copyright by Chasing Ghosts on Scooters in Bars.
You hear that?